The Sims, one of the most well-known video game franchises in recent memory, has also got to be one of the strangest, right? Typically, video games will serve as a form of escapism. Defeat the dragon, save the world, enter a reality that you could only dream of. Video games will usually tackle subjects that are impossible in our life. Why play a game about real life when that's the game we play every day anyways? Clearly, The Sims is proof that somehow this concept really is one that works. It's just life. You can create characters from all sorts of backgrounds and live life any way you can possibly imagine. And whatever life you're living in the game, there's also going to be hundreds of other characters in the game living their own lives in various other backgrounds, some being more fortunate, some being less fortunate. Usually the lives of these random NPCs won't be much intrigue to the average person, but maybe they are worth your time after all. Someone thought so, and it culminated in a rather interesting blog. That being the blog of Alice and Kev. On the popular site WordPress way back in 2009, somebody, thinking of the less fortunate characters there are occasionally in The Sims, and also taking into account the fact that The Sims 3 had a cash system that made it a little too easy to realistically make money, set out with a very interesting idea. To create two characters, strip them of all their money, move them into an abandoned park, and then attempt to just watch them survive. How would the results turn out? Would they be successful and find a safe place of living down the road? Would they begin drifting apart? Well, the two characters were Alice and Kev, a father and his daughter. Their personalities are described as follows. This is Kev and his daughter Alice. They're living on a couple of park benches, surviving on free meals from work and school, and the occasional bucket of ice cream from a neighbor's fridge. When you create a person in The Sims 3, you can give them personality traits that determine their behavior. Kev is mean-spirited, quick to anger, and inappropriate. He also dislikes children, and he's insane. He's basically the worst dad in the world. His daughter Alice has a kind heart, but suffers from clumsiness and low self-esteem. With those traits, that dad, and no money, she's going to have a hard life. On the following blog post, we get our first taster for how unexpectedly deep this whole experiment would cut. It describes Alice's teddy bear as being the only thing to ever hug her. It then shows how Kev hates children, waking up each morning to berate Alice, starting arguments for no reason at all. This resulted in Alice even leaving occasionally, sleeping on benches farther away from her father, and in one instance, actually being able to sleep in a bed due to a very nice household. The owners even noticed Alice's smell, but still let her sleep there out of possible sympathy. Moving back to Kev's side of things, we're now reminded of one of the core aspects when it comes to creating Sims, and that is of the lifetime wish. When you create a character, each one of them has a lifetime wish, something that they strive to accomplish before they pass. Well, being a horrible person, Kev's lifetime wish is to be the boyfriend of 10 different Sims. And as we see throughout this blog post, due to his personality, this lifetime wish is not seeming very possible. As time passes by, it seems that Alice is actually staying with the grandpa's family very often. So much so that for certain periods of time, she's almost exclusively there rather than with her father. Alice eventually becomes a teenager and earns her new trait of unlucky. Upon finally returning to her father after a lengthy absence, things almost go immediately down. Despite her getting older, Kev's feelings have not changed a bit. In fact, it seems that from what we can interpret from Sims language, the insults are getting even more specific. Shockingly, for the first time ever, Alice actually stands her ground and fights back, something that even the creator thought would be impossible due to her good trait. The night ends with them declaring each other as enemies. As time passes by, things get way darker. As more and more arguments ensue, Kev starts repeatedly threatening violence. He's become such a horrible influence that Alice's mood decreases considerably just by being in the same room as him, even if they aren't actively conversing. Finding any sort of happiness for Alice at this point is difficult. She still owns the teddy bear that would always distress her as a child, but she doesn't get enjoyment out of it anymore. The creator sent her to the playground on one occasion to see if it could help with her happiness, but it proved to be mostly futile. In a shockingly sad moment, Alice was described as sitting on the playground bench at one point, pausing and then just crying. Even worse, the family that always accepted her no matter what, the Joy family, stopped allowing her to sleep inside their house for whatever reason. With nowhere else she felt she could go, she just slept on a bench in their backyard, a place she actually wound up sleeping at for quite a while. Things start getting a little more nuanced later though. Having a curfew for years, it's a relatively common occurrence for the police to come and take Alice back to Kev, and on a particular instance this time, she gets sent back to him like usual, and Kev's response is really interesting. He's mad as you would expect, but not in the ways you'd expect. You'd expect him to just berate her randomly like usual, but it actually appears to be filled with some worry, and he even helps her with some homework afterwards. Unfortunately, the next morning, he's back to his normal self again. As things continue on, both of their lives begin feeling like somewhat of a cycle. Alice stays at home before she's eventually kicked out, and Kev tries to get more women and failing majorly. There would be a few things that absolutely stand out though. At one point, Alice finally got the hug she always dreamed of, and that little action gave her actual optimism as she even got a job. Meanwhile, it appeared that Kev actually found someone for the long term and became an elder while at it. This one worked out for way longer than the others too, but even this one wound up failing. And this time, when he returned to his daughter, for the first time ever, he actually got physical. Before, he would only threaten physical violence, but this time he actually acted on it. Meanwhile, upon receiving her first paycheck earning some money that she never had, she decided to donate it all to charity. This move shocked the creator of the blog, and us too. It would even become a common occurrence too. Alice truly was a good person through it all. Later on, Alice would become a young adult. She had her birthday party with a family that didn't even include her father, and as a result of being an adult, her days of school are over, so she can't get meals from there anymore. Meanwhile, for seemingly no reason at all, Kev starts taking a massive journey, just walking out in the countryside far away from civilization. There doesn't seem to be any goal, but he just keeps trekking out for whatever reason. Maybe in some way he'll find some sort of meaning in doing this. Alice actually wound up staying with the guy she's stayed with before, and who was with her for her birthday, and they are really greatly getting along. I thought for a moment that Kev would have found some newfound meaning through his journey, but in reality, he sees Alice feeling great and gets jealous and filled with rage. I'm left wondering why he did what he did. He's now living there again, and while Alice absolutely does not like Kev's company, she still repeatedly tries to take care of him, even taking him out to dinner a few times. However, it seems that eventually the man she's been staying with has brought a girl home, and she doesn't seem to like Alice very much. The feelings are likely mutual, and it's overall weirdly sad to see unfold. Now, Sims have a progress bar, which can serve pretty well to show how much time a Sim has left in this world, and by this point, Kev's is almost full, meaning that the end is near. He sets out to do a few last things, which of course just involve verbal abuse on various people he thinks deserve it, most notably including the longest relationship we personally ever saw Kev experience. But of course, there was one other person, that of course being Alice. And well, I'm just gonna read verbatim what the OP of this blog wrote about how this entire encounter went. Kev's last wish is to speak with Alice. He finds her at their old park, passing the time with a book. On seeing him, Alice's mood immediately drops. She really doesn't want to see Kev. But Kev doesn't immediately insult her as she might have been expecting. Instead, he starts to break into tears. He tries to cry on her shoulder, but Alice pushes him away. Comfort and acceptance is a little too much to ask of her by this point. But I do see a lot of subtle emotion in their animations. As Kev hides his face in his tears, I see pity in Alice's eyes, and she gingerly reaches her hand toward his arm, as if she's no longer sure she made the right decision. But before she touches him, she recoils again, and Kevin sobs alone. It feels like 2 lifetimes of regret being played out in that short moment. After some more uncomfortable interaction between them, Kev curls up on the bench. Alice sits with him through the night. Before the morning, Kev has passed away. That leads us to our final ever post, simply discussing the immediate aftermath of this situation and what this will mean to Alice. Alice hated her father. After all he'd done to her in his life, that's not really surprising. But he was still the only family she ever had, so nor is it surprising when his death leaves her an emotional wreck for days. It will be some time before she finishes mourning, but when she does, I think things will be different for Alice. With Kev no longer periodically dropping by to wreck her self-esteem, Alice will have a comparatively stable life. With her new job, she will be earning enough to start saving money, even with her spending on food and her charitable donations. There is still a long, hard journey to be made if she wants to own a home of her own. But I think the worst of her life is behind her. While she's not quite living happily ever after, I think her future will be brighter but less eventful from here on. I feel it is a fitting place to end this story. The blog ends with a download link that allows you to download Alice's world, and to continue her life to see what happens. Truthfully, anything can happen, but Alice will now live on in devoted players that followed this surreal and emotional journey of a blog. So as you may have noticed, this video was a little bit different than the normal video, as there wasn't really a mystery in sight. For this year, we wanted to make at least somewhat of a change in our formula. As you may have seen with the Halo video, the pieces of lost media we discussed weren't exactly much of mysteries either when it really came down to it. We just truly wanted to be able to discuss something on the internet we found incredibly fascinating. And well, this blog certainly isn't like anything I've ever seen before. Somehow a story being played out by a literal game managed to feel more real than most things you'll see anywhere else. It almost played out like a surreal soap opera, and I never really expected to get so invested in it. We weren't able to literally go through each and every blog post, so if you want to read the entirety of this blog's contents, then the link will be in the description. But overall, I found this tale to be tragic, moving, and beautiful all at the same time, and I hope you all thought the same. If any of you know of any more tales on the internet or elsewhere that may not necessarily be mysteries but are fascinating all the same, please let us know. For now though, long live Kev and may Alice live on, maybe even through you. They may not have been real people, but they sure felt like it. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, make sure to like this video and comment down below if you want us to do more kind of fascinating tales on the internet or just anything in general. I know we have some really cool history stuff. History shorter tales that are coming up. Also, make sure to check out the Patreon as only $1 a month. As always, my name is Sep from Debunk File. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.